Okay, so let me kind of just set it up a little bit first. So things that I would look for is I would try your very best to model their behavior without looking like you're doing that. So, you know, I don't want her to cross her arms and me to cross my arms, and her to uncross and me to uncross them. But if her body language right now, even though it's closed, it's hanging out closed. It's not this closed. Because this is a harder person to warm up to. It says, I don't really want to hear what you have to say. I intend on saying no to you. But I told you I would listen, so I'm here, you know? So that's different. Unless it's freezing cold in the room, this is like a person not really open to hearing what you have to say in the beginning. So hers is more like we're hanging out and chilled, so my body language is gonna be like this or like this, you know? And she is a person based on this body language that I would like reach out to or touch because her body language says I could do that. Does that make sense? Yep. Okay, so the closer you can get to someone, the better, but it kind of helps you because when someone's body language is really closed off, that's not a person. I'm an ID personality. My D would come up, my I would come down, and I would lower my voice and I would speak softer because she's not a real excited person at this moment, okay? No matter what her personality style is. I'm just gonna go off of her body language at first, okay? The other thing that you wanna look for is when a person, and I'm just gonna assume that you guys don't know anything about interviewing, and I'm gonna, if that's okay that I just assume that, and that way I can walk you through some basic things that I'm listening for in the interview when she says, tell me about yourself, etc. So I'm gonna walk through the interview and then I'll tell you what I listen for, etc. But that tell me about yourself question, that's not a question I wanna help her out with. I'm gonna make her struggle with it. If it's a person that, when I say tell me something about yourself and she pauses or asks for clarification, I'm really not gonna try to guide her because based on how she answers that question tells me exactly what kind of personality style she is, and it tells me how I'm gonna take the whole rest of the interview. So if I lead her, it's harder for me to do the interview. Does that make sense? So we'll kind of come back to that. So, okay. Well, first of all, Crystal, just thank you so much. I know we met at a class last week, and that was awesome to get to know you a little bit better. And what have you thought of your products? Because you left with a TimeWise 3D set. So have you liked the products?
I do. I like it a lot.
Okay, good. Are you using it every morning, every night?
Every night.
Okay, that's good enough. Okay, so anyway, I'll take it.
Okay.
So I just appreciate you at least hearing some information. I really loved getting to know you at the class, and I felt like you were really receptive as we kind of talked about information and some of the things based on the things you shared about your kiddos, sports they're in, things of that nature. I don't know, you just kind of jumped out at me as someone that maybe could have the information or hear the information, and it's just my job to give you the information. It's okay if we get all the way through this and it wouldn't be something for you, but I feel like I'll at least be able to sleep better at night if you have the information, and I know I did my job in sharing it with you, and if it would be for you, great. If it wouldn't be, that's okay too.
Okay.
But I'm gonna kind of basically just get to know you a little bit better. Most all these questions are gonna be about you, so it's gonna be easy for you to answer. And I'll tell you a little bit about myself and the Mary Kay story. I'll share with you a few facts about the opportunity. I'll see what questions you would have. And then at the end, based on all the information that I shared, I'll see if it would be something you'd be willing to try either now or later. And if not, no big deal. I'll tell you how we could still work together and help each other. So,
okay.
Awesome. Okay, so Crystal. Is that Crystal with a K?
C-R-I.
Okay. Okay. And so Crystal, tell me about yourself.
Well, I'm a mom of 3 kids.
All right.
I work full-time at a bakery.
All right.
I am a server part-time, and I coach girls high school soccer.
Okay.
And my kiddos are 7, 5, and 3. And away, I guess, of that.
Okay.
Add that in.
Okay, and Crystal, tell me what you like best about what you do.
Oh, I love decorating cakes and making things for people for their special occasions.
Okay. What would you like to change about your career or about your life right now?
More time with my kids.
Okay. If you could design your ideal job or your career, what would that look like?
Being able to just be more, well, I said more time, so being able to be just more available to them, less daycare. What else? And just having more time in our schedule for our family.
Okay. Well, let's just pretend. Let's fast forward 5 years from now. What would you what would you like your life to look like 5 years from now?
I would like to be a stay-at-home mom and just be able to have our family be debt-free and be able to go on more family vacations. Maybe not a full stay-at-home mom.
Okay.
I might go crazy.
No, I was going to ask you if you had ever considered being a work-from-home mom.
Yeah,
Have you
that
ever
could
thought
be
that?
easier.
Okay. Do you feel like you're currently on track to get there?
No, because I have a lot of other things that I do.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. Well, I'll just tell you a little bit about my Mary Kay story. I've been with Mary Kay actually 20 years, and at the time I started Mary Kay, I didn't have any kids. But I knew that when I did have kids, my mom had always worked from home, and she ran a salon from our house, and she was always the person to pick me up from school and was always the person to take me to school. And we also always had extra money because my mom had a job alongside my dad, and I always liked having those extras and valued her flexibility. So I knew that one day I'd want to be able to kind of work from home when I had kids, but kind of like you, I didn't, I never had an example of someone that stayed at home and didn't have extra money coming in, so it's kind of all I thought about. And so Mary Kay, over the years, you know, as we've had 1, 2, 3, and 4 kids, and what are the ages of your kids?
7, 5, 3.
Okay, so I have kind of those stair steps too. So mine are 13 and 12 and 10 and 6.
Okay.
Do you have boys or girls?
2 girls and a boy.
Okay, what are their names?
Cecilia, Lily, and Anthony.
Okay, so I have 3 boys and a girl, and I have loved that at every stage I've been able to kind of just reevaluate where life is. So I know you mentioned earlier at the last class just about your kids being in lots of sports and you know, it sounds like you have lots of talents and lots of things that you're good at and lots of things that you could make some extra money. So I have always liked it that with Mary Kay, that the time that I had to spend doing some of those other things that I did like doing, it just took a lot more time to make the same amount of money than Mary Kay. So Mary Kay and 2 to 5 hours a week, I found that I could make a couple hundred extra, whereas some of the other things that I did enjoy doing, they just took a lot more time. And so eventually it was just an opportunity to have a residual income and money that continued to come in, even if I wasn't doing the same amount of work to get it. And that's what kind of transitioned me into more of Mary Kay instead of some of those other jobs. Even though I've kind of, like you, been a person that always had a lot going on, and busy people get the most things done, and you seem to like being busy and like being with people. So I mean, there's lots of things I could share with you about Mary Kay, but if I only had 5 minutes to share with you something about Mary Kay or facts about the opportunity, what would be important to you, or what would you want to know?
How to make time for this with my busy life schedule. Like, I'm already really busy.
Okay, great question. Is there anything else that comes to your mind?
What's the typical amount of money that people make?
Okay. Okay, so let me start there. As far as making amount of time, I think that people always have time for the things they want to have time for and money for the things they want to have money for. So I think it's just a matter of if it's something that based on what it would bring to you, it would be worth that trade-off for you. That because the typical Mary Kay consultant, just in my personal unit, probably works 2 to 5 hours a week. Some even work less than 2 hours. So I always tell people in 2 to 5 hours a week, I feel like I could help them make a couple hundred extra. So let me ask you this. If I were to be able to show you in 2 to 5 hours a week how to make 200 extra, do you think you could find 2 to 5 hours?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's good to know. So as far as the typical work week, you know, it's different for every single person depending on how much money they want to make. If you wanted to make more than a couple $100s, you could always work more than that. And sometimes as that residual income starts to come in and you have reorders and things of that nature, or you do a sale, you could make even more than that. But I feel like that's a pretty conservative. I would rather under promise and over deliver than sell you on something and it be hard to deliver on that. So, well, here's just a few reasons that I feel like some people start a Mary Kay business, and I'm kind of just going to rattle them off to you, and I just want you to kind of say back to me the things that you remember or that stick out to you, because that would be something that would maybe have a value to you. So the ability to put God first, family second, and career third. Doing work that's fulfilling and enjoyable, being free to be your own person and use your own unique gifts and talents, personal growth and development, making a difference, recognition, a flexible schedule, income and benefits, working from home or a coffee shop or on the road, time and income to pursue things you're passionate about, being part of a working team, and only $100 starter kit to start an opportunity. What jumps out at you?
Flexibility and being part of a team.
Okay.
Working from home.
Okay. Okay. What other questions would you have for me?
Nothing really. I think it sounds good. It's something I could totally replace a couple of my other jobs with.
Okay. Okay. Just a few last questions. What did you hear today that stuck out to you or that impressed you the most?
The little bit of time that you can put in, or the more time that you can put in.
Okay. If you were to become a consultant, what skills do you feel like you already possess that would be an asset to you building a business?
People person.
Okay, I would agree. Okay, what do you think you would enjoy the most if you were to become a consultant?
I would say maybe meeting new people.
Okay. Well, and based on our conversation, here's just a couple things that jumped out at me that are things that I see that I think would be great. Obviously, throughout the entire interview, you're talking about people, and that's what I think I enjoy the most. People give me energy, and it seems like people would give you energy. So I think being around people and having the ability to come alongside of people and still have an opportunity to make money and build relationships. And I know that you've got lots of talents and lots of things that you could make extra money in, but I do feel confident that time and having more time with your kiddos is something that you value. So I do feel like Mary Kay would give you the opportunity to have more time in your schedule and make the same amount of money as some of those other jobs. So I think it'd be a really great fit. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being I would rather live in a cardboard box with it raining outside than sign up for Mary Kay. And 10 being sign me up today. Where do you see yourself?
I'd be a 10. I'm gonna do it and don't do it.
Okay. So all we need to do from here, let me kind of walk you through that process. We'll order a starter kit. A starter kit has over $300 worth of full-size products. So the products that you saw at the class, the 3-in-1 cleanser, moisturizer, the things that you left with, in both formulas come in there. All the CC creams, you tried CC cream, every color of CC cream comes in there, black mascara, a little set hand set, all of the mirrors and trays and samples, everything that you kind of saw me get out at the class. All of that will come in the starter kit. It's $100. And then after your $100 decision, I'm gonna walk you through a few just questions that will help us know where to go from here. I always sit down with every single person because the only thing you have to do in Mary Kay is buy a starter kit. And after you buy a starter kit, then it's really up to you what you do with it. And I'm not your boss, I'm just the person that's trying to help you get what you come into Mary Kay to get out of it. Cool. So I'm gonna ask you 3 things. We'll get your starter kit all ordered, and then I'll have a few bits of little homework for you to do, making me a contact list, kind of thinking about how much money you'd like to see Mary Kay bring to you, and thinking about the amount of time we'd like to devote to it, just making sure all those measure up. And then there'll be a second decision as far as how you'd like to work Mary Kay from there. Whether you'd like to run it more as a store, whether you'd like to run it more as a taking orders as you go. So there's lots of different options, but the only thing you have to do is buy the starter kit, and you just did that. Cool. So after that, we'll just walk through all of your questions, see where you're at, and then I'll just guide you the best I can from there. and we'll just work side by side.
Great, I'm
Okay,
excited.
so let's go ahead and get your starter kit ordered.
Awesome.
Okay. Sound cool? Okay. So a couple of things. One, this tell me something about yourself. Are any of you guys familiar with like DISC personality styles? And have you had that training? And do you know what you're listening for when someone says, tell me something about yourself? Okay, so when someone says, tell me something about yourself, whatever their answer is back tells me what kind of personality style she is. Okay, so does anyone remember what the first thing she said back is? Huh?
Her kids.
Yeah, she mentioned her kids. So she has what type of personality style?
S.
S. So you have S in your personality. Have you ever taken the personality
Yeah, I
assessment?
forget what I have.
Okay. But the second thing she said is what?
Her accomplishments with work. No? Or
Um,
was
It was a lot about people. People, she blah, 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 rattled off a bunch of stuff.
Oh, what I did. My 3 different jobs.
Yes, like 3 different
Cake
jobs.
decorator, this and
You know, I've done cake decorating, I've done this, I've done that. So what would be her second personality style? An I, right? She's kind of all over the place in the second answer. So when you're asking, tell me something about yourself, a D personality would be a person whose response was about accomplishments. I'm the president of such and such, I'm so-and-so in this sorority. Like their title is attached to who they are at a job, or it has some kind of clout or status that goes with it because it's what they've worked really hard for and it's who they are. So that's what you're listening for there, and that would tell you that they're a D personality. An I personality usually starts in kindergarten. I mean, you say, tell me something about yourself, and that could be a really long answer. And if I had let you elaborate, like you could have gone on and on,
Okay,
right?
yeah.
Like,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
gosh,
I
I
can
know.
tell you how many you've been coaching and
Oh
stuff.
yeah, and I've been cheering since I was in 5th grade. I mean, I didn't make the squad in 4th grade, but I totally made it in 5th grade. Okay, and so people go on and on when it's, you know, a I personality, and they can just talk about themselves. An S personality, how they first answer the question is how she first answered the question, which I am a mom of 3, or I'm a mom, you know, well, my husband does this, my kids do this, these are the ages of my kids. Or if they aren't married and don't have kids but are an S personality, it usually has to do with something they volunteer for, something they do behind the scenes, like they're a caregiver type person, but maybe it has to do with something they're a part of at church, or it's usually about family or about church or about something, but they're the behind the scenes because who they are is through other people. And then a C personality says, what do you mean by that question? A C personality doesn't answer the question. A C personality asks for clarification, to which I really try not to give clarification, though I know when they ask me that question, they are a C personality, and this is not going to be the easiest interview for me because I am not that personality style. But it is nice to know in the beginning that a D and I have a pretty good shot. The I in her personality is why she was able to say yes right away. If she had been like all C or C or all S and C, she would have had to go home to talk to her family about it, talk to her husband about it, go home and like research the Better Business Bureau to see if we're really a deal. So a C or an S would have had to either ask permission or ask for more clarification or do more research, ask a lot more questions than I have prepared to answer that day, etc. So a C and an S usually can't make a decision on the spot today because they either need more info or permission. And a D and an I, a D it would never occur to them to ask anyone else. They make all their own choices. And an I, it wouldn't occur to ask anyone else because they just are so excited about the opportunity. It's going to be so awesome. So anyway, so those are things I'm looking for. And when you get to the part, I mean, it also backs it up when she's talking about what do you like best about what you do. She's talking about people, which goes back to the I. Okay, what would you change if you could? Time. When people are mentioning things they would change, I knew that when I said, if I only had 5 minutes to share with you facts about the opportunity, what would you want to know? I know that her question is going to be about what? Time. She's going to ask me a time question. People really only have a couple of questions. So you don't need to know how to answer every single objection in the whole wide world. Pretty much people are going to ask how much time does it take, or how much money does it take, to get started, or how much money can you make? Okay, so it's a time or money question most of the time, and I asked her some questions back. You want to try to ask questions? But also when people say, these are the questions I have, at the end, when she is maybe going to have an objection, what is the objection going to be? The same thing her question was about. So if her questions are, how much does it cost to get started? Now, when do I have to have the $100 for the starter kit? Then what is going to hold her back at the end? Money. If her question is, how much time does it take? You know, what's the average typical work week like? Then what's going to be her objection at the end? I don't know that I have the time. That's why it's important to ask a question. If I could show you how to make a couple $100 in 2 to 5 hours a week, do you think you'd have 2 to 5 hours? Because I can't say, if I can do it, you can do it. That's like literally the worst response. Okay, so you can't say, if I can do it, you can do it. I'm super busy. I'm way busier than you. Okay, woo! You just lost her. Yeah. So anyway, so you want to do that. You know, other than that, if you had answered anything but a 10, if she says on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being this, 10 being this, where do you see yourself falling? Most people aren't going to say a 10, even if they're really interested. I mean, the other day I had an 8 sign. I've had a 6 and a 7 still sign after they had a few more questions answered. But a good closing question is, you know, hey, Crystal, what would be something that would need to change? Let's say she answered a 7. I would say, hey, Crystal, what would be something that would need to change in your life, or a question that maybe I still need to answer in order for you to move closer from a 7 to a 10?
Just figuring how to balance another thing into my life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so would it be helpful if we maybe went through just a weekly plan sheet? Would you just take a couple minutes for me to kind of feel out your schedule and see whether we really have time? Because I'm not going to know if you have time unless I actually walk through it with you. Okay. At which point I would get a weekly plan sheet and I would literally take her through Sunday through Saturday. And we would figure out, you know, whether she has the time or not. Because how can I say she has the time? I very seldom have people that don't have the time, but I can't say, obviously you have 2 to 5 hours, give up a TV show. I can't say that, right? I have to say, hey, would it be okay with you if I just walk through it? And then that also gives you credibility, because I did just take the time to walk through her entire schedule with her and say, you know, what does this look like? Like, who would pick your kids up, or what would that look like? I'm also, if she says yes, I'm like training her. And this job gets way easier the more I do right here. Like, the more I can build a relationship, the more that I can walk you through things, the more I can already plant seeds about, like, delegated help, or maybe who would help you, or, you know, you mentioned your grandma. Like, do you think your grandma would ever be willing to do that, so that maybe here we could put a class? You know, I mean, I want to start to, like, move in. I don't just want her to say yes. I want her to say yes and it work. I want her to say yes and her be able to make a couple $100 every single week after 2 to 5 hours. So that's what that's going to look like. I would have her sign the starter kit agreement, take her money, tell her it's going to be $117. Michigan sales tax might be different, but it's going to be $117. Really cool story. So the other day, I had a girl that was going back and forth, and she couldn't decide. So I gave her the pillow test, and I said, hey, go home, sleep on it. I'll call you tomorrow. If in 24 hours you decide to do it, I'll have a little free gift for you. She's like, you know, if you walk out and I don't do it, I'm not going to do it. I think I just need to do it. I'm like, okay. She's like, she said, I think I have enough cash with me. I'm like, okay. I said, well, it's going to be $117. So she pulls into her wallet and she gets all of the money out of her wallet. Do you know how much money she had? $117. Exactly. Oh, that's such a cool story. God so wants you to be on my team. So anyway, but that's it. Does anybody have any questions on, like, any of that or anything you saw?
Well, how did you get to that point?
How did I get to the interview?
Yes.
Well, I tried to kind of set it up as if it was coming from a party. So she was, how I assume we set this up is she attended someone's party last week as a guest. She bought a skincare system, and I said to her at the individual close, hey, I don't know if this would ever be for you, but I'd be able to sleep better at night if you at least had the information on the opportunity. Would it be something you'd be willing to sit and talk with me about? And here we are. So that's how I set this interview up.
At
But-
a different time.
Huh? At a different time. Yeah. I think you can set it up, but I think that this process, it takes like 10 minutes at least if I'm kind of rushing through it. So I'm not the best person at like doing 3 interviews at the end of the class. My gift is not being able to do this with 3 people. I know other people can do it, it's just not my gift because I really want to get to know her and I have interviewed 2 people at once with some success. I did that the other day. The girl that pulled out the $117, 2 of them from the class had questions and I stayed after the class to answer both their questions. They both did end up signing, but after they signed, I literally just drew a line down the sheet of paper and said, hey,
Together.
yeah, why don't I just ask you both the questions? And then I would go to her and I'd go to her. Tell me something about you. Tell me something about you. What do you like best about life right now? What do you like best about life right now? And so I went back and forth. At the end, they ended up both signing. And they were kind of family and they kind of knew each other already and that was fine. But from that point on, everything was individual. I delivered new consultant packets individually. I set up individual business debuts. Like these are individual businesses and I don't want one person not doing anything with their business affecting the other person not doing anything with their business. So the only thing I was comfortable doing was the interview, getting both of their agreements, and then from that point on saying, why don't we meet tomorrow? And one of them, they live across the street from each other, and one of them saying, hey, do you want to stop by here? And no, let's just set something up individually because I don't want one person having a contact list of 40 people
Right.
affecting the girl that has a contact list of 240 people. I want them to have individual opportunities, individual, successes, etc. That makes sense. But I don't think it needs to be set up real smooth. There are times where I'm just done with the class and I say, or I'm done with the facial. A lot of times, if you and I, no matter who you were, if you're individually at a facial with me, we're going through an interview. Because it's just me and you. You've bought the product, you've either booked a future appointment but I've walked you through now I always walk them through the whole closing of that facial and collect their money for the product before I would ever interview them. But after that, it would literally be as simple as, hey Crystal, I don't know if you have just a few more minutes, but I have this little interview guide and I just get so much credit per month from the company when I do 25 of these in a month. And so I would love it if you'd be willing to just be one of my 25 people that just gives me your opinion. Would you have just 5 or 10 minutes to walk through this little guide with me and I'll just ask you some questions about you?
Yep. So you still go through you don't
I'm going to go through this guide no matter what.
Yeah. You don't tweak it or nothing, even if it's, okay.
I think the guide, I almost don't know what to do if I don't go through the guide.
Okay.
The guide is the guide is the guide. And when I try to skip through questions or I try to kind of hurry it up, there's something missing when I skip a question.
Okay.
It's then I don't know, oh shoot. And sometimes I'll skip through this part. I don't like this part a lot when it says why women are starting a business, tell me which one stuck out to you. But when I try to skip that and I don't do it, I don't know what sticks out to her.
Right.
And what she's doing is selling herself on, oh, here's all the things I could have, but man, flexibility is what I'm really after, or being part of a team is what I'm really after. So when I skip that, now I have let her read through it herself. If it kind of feels weird to ask that, if I feel weird reading to her, I'm hey, here's just some reasons that people start a Mary Kay business. So just read through these and just circle the 2 that stand out to you the most. I could do that, but that's really it. It doesn't take very long to walk through it. It's just walking through it, and it doesn't have to be smooth. But the interview where I walk all the way through this and I get, if I do this 10 times, I'm going to sign more people than if I set it up perfect with 2 people and make sure all the stars align and she has time for coffee and she's had time to set up another skincare class and all of that stuff. I do believe that you need to book the appointment and you need to sell her product and you need to, if she's at a class, maybe rebook her for a future skincare class. I want to do as much as I can to not shoot myself in the foot and take money away from my family. And if I just interview her, let's say you just have someone on your prospect list and she's not using the product. Two bad things about that. If you just are like my good friend from church and you've never tried Mary Kay, but man, I think you'd be great. One, it's so unnatural for me at this point to try to book an interview when someone doesn't love our product, use our product, know what the heck I even do for a living. That's a hard sell for me. And I will never forget being at a new consultant training, and I had like 4 or 5 new consultants, and every question that they asked, like 3 or 4 of the consultants had all been hostesses for me and had hosted classes the month before. This one person had not. I only recruited her because I loved her and knew her. She's the head of 4-H in our community. Like, she's amazing, and she runs the Indiana State Fair for 4-Hers. I mean, I was like, oh, she's awesome. But she did not use our product. So every question that got asked in new consultant training, it was so easy for me to answer their questions because I'm like, oh, remember at the class? You're gonna coach a hostess like that. Oh, remember when we did the individual clothes? I referred to the skincare class throughout like all these things, or referred to their facial, or remember when we filled out the profile card, or remember when we did this? And after that training, this one girl came up to me, teary-eyed, at the end and said, why didn't you make me a hostess first? I have no idea what I'm doing. And ever since then, it's just like, why didn't I make you a hostess first? Well, because it was the end of the month and I had a goal, and like, I don't have time to make you a hostess, so let's just sign you up and we'll just like backtrack.
Yeah.
But backtracking, like, I don't meet her friends, she never has the experience on the other side. She never gets to feel what it's like to hand me $300 and pay full price for product. She needs to pay full price for product, so she never thinks that it's too expensive to buy. She needs to see what it's like to have to wait on an under eye corrector because I didn't have it in my trunk, so that she knows whether she wants to make people wait on an under eye corrector because they don't have it in their trunk. So all of those things are harder to sell someone on being a great consultant when they've never been serviced by a great consultant. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I just think that when you're doing it that way, your family makes money from the sale of the class, you meet her friends, she gets the experience, she hands you full price product, she books a class, you schedule a date, she gives you a guest list. I mean, all of these things. She never has to ask me how we make money. And your retention from people who are close to the product is huge. Like we mentioned it today, like Stephanie said, I'd never be able to not be in Mary Kay just because of all the products I use. But some of the people on our teams could totally leave Mary Kay because they use as much stuff from Sephora as they do from Mary Kay. Because they don't really know everything there is to know about every Mary Kay product. It seems crazy to me that you would have access to 50% off shopping and not utilize it. But if the Sephora lady is out there training you how to use this stuff in her store, and your Mary Kay sales director or recruiter is not, I mean, there's people in my unit that I've never even met. They haven't had a class from me on how to use 3 eyeshadows, blush, and a lipstick. I'm not the person there at the store, and so they've got to get that training and education somewhere. So sometimes I think we'd have $1 million units if people just used as much makeup as I did. Or just wash their face every morning and every night with Mary Kay, So I think that that's a key. If you can get them close to the product, your retention is going to be so much different. And the company did a stat once, but it goes from like a 37% retention rate to over 80% when they use the product before they recruit. So anyway, thank you guys.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.